Hello and welcome to this edition of Give and Go Live. My name's David Newberry. I'm the e-learning coordinator and I'm joined by my colleague Ian Barker. Hello, Ian.
Hi, David. Pleasure to be here with you and Leslie.
Thanks, Ian. And yes, we do have a special guest today, Leslie Gallimore, who is the head coach of the women's program at the University of Washington and the current president of United Soccer Coaches. Hello, Leslie. How are you?
Hi, David. Hi, Ian. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here. And today's session, we're looking at a 6 versus 6 plus players to large goals. And this can be an attacking or defending focused activity, depending on what you wish to look at. And I will talk about the first slide, which is the setup. You can see here we have two teams and we have a large expanded center circle that can be somewhere in the region of 25 to 30 yards in diameter. And we have in that area, we have 3 whites versus 3 blacks with 2 neutral players playing for the team in possession. So the players in blue are playing for the team that has possession of the ball, creating a 5 versus 3 in the center. And on the outside, we have the support players, and you can decide on how many support players you wish based on the age group you work with and the number of players you have on the park. The white team is attacking in this direction, and the black team, when they win possession, will attack in the other. And the coach determines which team starts with possession in the area, in the center area. And the objective is to make 4 passes with the neutral players before they can break out of the central area. So, Leslie, let's talk about some of the methodology and some of the things that are happening on this diagram.
There's a lot of things that you can speak to as a coach. I would say the first thing being, if they're going to be up 5 versus 3, how to make sure that you're capitalizing on your numbers up situation. So obviously the speed of play, you wouldn't have to put a touch restriction on unless they played so slowly that you felt the need to as a coach. But just being able to get into a rhythm in this area and find the 4 passes as quickly as you can to break out would be the coaching points I would make.
Ian, do you think you see anything else here that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, so I would look at this activity as the way we generate our attack from the center of midfield. And I think we can see here we're going to be kind of working on the premise that we play with 3 in the center of midfield, in this case, the 3 whites to start with. This shape is a circle. It makes a ton of sense because you've got a center circle. Other coaches might want to make this a rectangle. I actually saw Jose Mourinho do this with Real Madrid when he had the team in at UCLA, and the 6 internationals in the middle, and they just played 3-on-3. But for those of us that are youth coaches, high school coaches, even college coaches, the numerical advantage of the 2 neutrals, 1 neutral to start with guarantees that we'll get these opportunities to see how we break from the center of the park into attacking situations. So I really like this type of activity with this trigger point.
So looking at the setup for sequence 2, very similar. The whites have possession, but in this case, the blacks have managed to intercept, creating a transitional moment. So you can see here that the black player has now made a tackle against the white, and that squirted the ball out into wide positions. And so now the black team, having been in defense in the center circle, are now counter-attacking on the other in the other direction. So Leslie, what do you see here that might be helpful for our coaches?
Yeah, I think that anytime you're coaching in a either numbers even or a game-like setup in this activity, is transition is key. And the fact that you can coach this in this activity is really important. And so, depending on how you coach the counterattack to your team, is just the max sprints to get forward and always looking for a forward pass as quickly as you can, numbers joining, trying to exploit the slow recovery by the white team. And I think I would even go so far as to talk about what these runs in here look like, to make sure that this player and this player are staggered and trying to lose their defenders, and we can address runs in the box at this point, but definitely in a limited number of passes, trying to create an opportunity on goal.
Ian, the setup is relatively simple. So what age groups would you see this activity being relevant for? And then how would you make this activity a little bit more challenging?
Yeah, so our 9s and 10s are playing 7-a-side. So we're starting to see these kind of numbers those of us coaching 11 and 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, we have bigger squads. You split the squad in half, you probably come up with a 6 and 7. So I think definitely this is a perfectly valid youth training. But we would do this with our college program at the University of Wisconsin, and then later at Macalester College with men's senior players as well. What we would do, though, is we'd be careful about what it was we would try to get out of the session. So speed of attack, transition, as Leslie pointed out, the quality of runs into the box. So there's a myriad of different things, but the younger the age is, the less I try to cram into the session and maybe stay on 1 or 2 central themes, but it could be of a technical or tactical nature, and then layer in more concepts as they get older.
Thank you. So our final sequence, again, another development here, though we've removed, for game realism, now we've removed the all-time offensive players that were in there in blue. Now it's essentially a 3 versus 3 in the center of the park. And the black team here have broken down the right-hand side of the field this time and made a deep cross into the box with a smart finish from the center forward. So thanks, Leslie. Can you pick up on the methodology for this one, please?
Yeah, I think as Ian mentioned, well, first of all, if it's good enough for Mourinho, it's good enough for us, right? So, and I would also concur that you want to, the younger age group or the less tactically savvy or technical kids that you coach, that you would want to scale back the amount of information you're giving them in this session. So try to focus on 1 or 2 things. But you could, in this setup, coach a myriad of things. I would, with maybe, 11, 12, 13-year-olds start to talk about reading where the defenders are. Here in this, you see 2 players here, but also 2 very deep players. So again, a ball that beats these players. I don't know that a deep ball is the best way to go here. Maybe it's better off to combine and try to create numbers up in this situation. Now, if your defenders were flat across the back here, start to read when potentially an early service is in between the space and the last defender. So again, reading defenses would be something I would look at with older players, but the setup gives you really a multitude of options to coach.
Ian, any concluding comments?
Yeah, so the coaches, we can pay attention to the fact that we can mix this variable. So we can change the size and the dimensions of the neutral zone or the beginning zone, if you will. We can manipulate the numbers. We can have king players, neutral players, all-time offensive players, or we choose not to. We can determine the number of passes need to be set up in here. But when we look at this as coaches, and hopefully some of us are still playing or we used to play, this is a game. The only thing that's really challenging for the players is that we always start with this trigger point of possession in here. So instead of a goal kick or a kickoff, we're starting with this possession activity in the center of the field because that's our coaching theme. But at the end of the day, this is a game. So you're going to get engaged players, and the opportunity for physical and mental activity is really high. And you're going to get players wanting to do this session as you continually lift off the conditions. So for me, this is the type of training that most of our youth coaches, high school and college coaches should be aspiring to.
Well, thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Ian, for your time today. And coaches, thank you for joining us on this edition of Give and Go Live.